Uncle Josh Seneb, Unc meaning life, Seneb meaning prosperity, Ujeb meaning health, Uncle Josh Seneb, Seneb meaning health. Hotep, we say the conscious movement also represent peace. Uh, if we had Hispanic people in here, we probably would say Como a star, and that is a greeting that says, "How are you?" Our Muslim brothers and sisters, we would say Salam, and Salam for our Hebrew and Muslim brothers and sisters represents peace. Our Pan-Africanist brothers and sisters, we would say Habaragani. Let us work, let us pull together to continue to fight against the various levels of oppression and anything that's affecting us, that's causing us to fall short in these last and evil days. I'm just on fire, pleased, thrilled, and overjoyed to stand before you again to bring a brief message in our subject. On this morning, we will be talking about reality and truth. And those are two powerful words that us, as a melanated people, us as a hue referring to color, a man people, that we're having a problem identifying and dealing with. And I say that very humbly because there's so much that's against us that we know to be unrealistic, but we're still doing it. There's so much against us that we know to be untruth or untruthful, but we still participating in those type of, if you will, insane things that's causing us to be cripples, causing us to be stagnated, causing us to be lesser as men and women as we continue to live and struggle here on the earth. Just want to send out a special prayer for Aretha Franklin's family. You know that we lost the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, just on last week. Someone who I grew up as a young man here in Michigan, Saginaw, Michigan, not far from Detroit. Hearing her sing all of my life, being that we had a radio station here, 107.1 W3 Soul, we called it back then. And they played all of not only Motown records, but any, if you will, black records that were out back then. They played them. And Aretha Franklin was one that we often heard on the radio, that we had a special affinity, a special love and respect for her because she was one of our own. She was a native Michigander that we really loved and waited on her next project, her next artistry, her next recording to come out so we could finger pop and groove off of it and so on. And by me being a young man, I saw my mama and other women, my mother, my mama, and other women, how they had a special love for Aretha Franklin because she always sung that down to earth type song that the women was experiencing going through at the time. And I'm guessing, and I'm, even though I'm guessing, I'm saying I know it's the truth. That's why they labeled her the Queen of Soul, because some of the songs that she sung touched the very core of them, was able to quicken their spirit, so to speak, as to the time they was living in and what they was going on. I can think of one song in particular, the one Think. And she was saying, you better think, about what you're doing to me. I can think of the song Respect, where a lot of us learned how to spell respect from singing the R-E-S-P-T-T, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, respect, find out what that mean to me, respect. You better respect, you better think. And other song that she made, Say a Little Prayer, The House that Jack built, Jump, and so on and so forth, that she had, Bridge Over Troubled Water, bunch of songs I'll be naming for days, that she had some very powerful songs, some songs that touched home. And as we begin to start this message, that we did just want to take out a moment to acknowledge the contributions our sister made to us. Hearing her sing, Lift Every Voice and Sing, hearing her sing other black national anthems and positive messages. Because you got to remember back then, as different from the time now, a lot of the artists sung message music. And that when they sung messages in their music. And Aretha Franklin was not just a singer who sung mainstream, what they call soul music, but she also had messages in her song, as a lot of them did back then. Marvin Gaye and Isaac Hayes and the Isley Brothers and so on and so forth. Even Michael Jackson, he had a lot of messages in some of his songs. And I would even encourage the young artists today that we need more positive messages in your artistry. If you're going to call yourself an artist, part of being an artist, give us something tangible, give us something real that can feed the spirit of a people who's continuing to go backwards based on misinformation, based on not dealing with reality or untruths, that our people are going backwards, and you're supporting the backwardness of us as a people as you continue to make these diabolical and debilitating type songs and records or whatever you want to call them. I'm not going to call that artistry. Anytime you're doing some type of form of witchcraft, I'm going to call it that, that's talking about the lesser of us and bragging on how much money you got and how much dope you done sold to your own people, there's no way I can label you as being an artist. I can label you as being a madman or a mad woman who's promoting the debility and the lessening order of your own people. Come on, let's get a Most High hand clap. Again, we say, Aretha Franklin, we love you. Our prayers go out to you, your family, the city of Detroit, all over the earth, all over the United States, all over the earth, anywhere where people have heard your music. You have touched them, and we love you, and we miss you already. I remember my mama calling her Riri. Not so much Aretha Franklin, she used to call her Riri. Ooh, Riri got that good record, and all that. I remember to call her Riri, I'm just going back, y'all. Call our sister Riri. She said, well, can't wait on Riri next song, because Riri gonna bring it home. And then Riri, that new record will come out, and they know it was Riri because she used to hit them notes. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Riri was able to sing. She would hit them notes. But anyway, let us get into this message where we're talking about reality, what defines reality for us, what defines truth for us. And I know that I heard a brother say one time, and I know where he got it from. He said, truth is the only thing that changes not. And I understand that truth might not change us not, but truth has to be something that sparks your spirit, beloved, and it calls you to walk out of one form of spiritual ignorance unto a greater form of spiritual light that quickens you coming out of the spiritual ignorance that you might be sojourning or laboring in under the auspicious, under the belief system, under the misrepresentation that it is truth. When you hear truth, then truth is supposed to shock your conscience. Have I got a praying temple? When you hear truth, it's supposed to touch the very core of you, to excite something down on the inside of you, to make you gravitate towards it and say, hey, this is what I need, or this is what I want. And that's also part of what promotes and lets you know what your reality is. You see, because your reality and your truth got to line up. Have I got a praying church? We can live in illusion, and they say one of the worst illusions you can be in, if you think of yourself to be more than what you really are, then you are in an illusionary state. Or if you continue to buy in something that really ain't working for you, then that's an illusionary state. That's not reality, but you're in illusion. You're caught up in illusion where you so brainwashed in the illusion that you accept the illusion as being the truth. But we as a people who are struggling here in America to come out of the different levels of oppression and the different levels of confusion that we are experiencing every day, we know that we have a responsibility to lead this earth and to leave our people in a better state, meaning general condition that they were, that when they inherited, when they was birthed into this world, and us already here, we have a responsibility to tell them not what they want to hear, but to tell them what they need to hear. They say when somebody love you, you don't tell them what you tell them what they want to hear. You tell them what they need to hear. Have I got a praying temple? And it's our responsibility as we see us continuing to slip further and further into the abyss of degradation, that we begin to tell our offspring, tell our loved ones, brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers, that maybe it's time for us to go in another direction, because what we're perceiving as being a reality ain't really a reality. What we're being perceiving and teaching as being the truth, that maybe it ain't necessarily the truth, because they even had a saying that saying the proof is in the pudding, right? And what that meant is that if the proof is in the pudding, that means that there's some working going on in that area where you should see some type of fruition as a result of the truth making manifest something that's wonderful and marvelous on the behalf of the people who are buying into the proof being in the pudding concept. We want it to be some good pudding. You can have bad pudding too. And the problem with us, we have a whole lot of bad pudding, and we saying that the reality of it really is some good pudding. But we're not getting the nutritional benefits out of pudding. The pudding might taste good, and that's part of our problem. We're being taught to buy into what tastes good and what look good as opposed to what really is good for us. So we are not growing in leaps and bounds, brothers and sisters, as we should. We just thank all our guests for showing up this morning. We just thank all our members for being here. So many people have said, well, brother, we ain't seeing you on YouTube. You ain't really been doing no presentations. And I already told y'all that I'm not so much trying to see vainglory. I'm not trying to be seen among men. I'm not trying to put a whole bunch of, if you will, messages on YouTube if it's not gonna get, if it's not gonna create the atmosphere and the following that I need to help us. We need to help us overcome the different levels of oppression that we are faced with. Then why would I keep getting on there except it would be ego? And anybody know me, I'm not into a whole bunch of ego-driven stuff. But if you want to talk about the real stuff, if you want to talk, about the truth, then that's where I'm at, and anybody know me know that. I'm not trying to come on here and appear to be something that I'm not. I'll say it very humbly. I love my people. I love my people the way I'm supposed to love my people. My daddy taught me that the first law of nature is the preservation of self. That all of the red ants hang out together. All of the black ants hang out together. That you love yourself, you love your collective self first, your individual self, and then your family, which is also part of your individual self, and then your community, which is your collective self. And that if you do that, then that you're on the right track. So I understand that I have to have self-love first. Because if I don't have self-love first, then what good am I? And there's so many people we already know out there because of vainglory and trying to get money and false prestige and honor and stature from the political arena, from the religious arena, from whatever, the sports arena, from whatever arena they can get it from, that they're selling us out when they should stand up and talk about what's truthful and rightful, they're not doing it. We were talking earlier, and we talked about the incident concerning Colin Kaepernick, who was the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, how he made a peaceful protest by kneeling down, and then Donald Trump used it as an opportunity, as he has so brilliantly done over the course of his presidency, these 500 and some days that he's entered the presidency, that every time the media have him grasping for straws, or they have him on a particular topic where they were really on him real hard about his connection with the Russians and all of that, and he seen Colin Kaepernick kneeling, and he used that as an opportunity to say that he's unpatriotic, that he won't stand for the anthem, so on and so, he's anti-American and all of that. He used that as the deter people from the real issue that was at hand, and the issue was that they was finding out all of this information about him colluding and being in bed with the people in Russia, and like the media usually does, they got off him and jumped on Colin Kaepernick, especially by him having white privilege and being the president, where he can influence them in such a way to where they went to talking about Colin Kaepernick, and Colin Kaepernick came out and said, look, all I did was took a knee. It was peaceful protest. I ain't called nobody name. I ain't said nothing about nobody. I just didn't feel like standing for an anthem that I felt that really didn't represent me. And then in the result of that, all of this blowing up, we found out that the people who wrote the anthem had wrote the anthem in a racist connotation anyway. We began to find out that the anthem had only been part of the NFL the former 3 years, that before then, you didn't even have to stand up for an anthem because there wasn't even an anthem sung in the NFL arena. And then we also found out that they had pictures of Trump before he became president. Well, he attended many sports events, and while the anthem was being sung, he sit there and kept eating his hot dog or sipping on his beer or whatever he was doing. He never stood up himself, big hypocrite. But now he got the whole world mad at this man and the whole NFL because of some false concern that he has for patriotism, of singing the anthem and people standing up. And I just want to say to our veterans, I love those who came out in defense of Colin Kaepernick, and I'm talking about the reality of it, that they came out and said that's the reason why we fought and risked our life. So Colin Kaepernick could have a right to either stand, kneel, sit, or whatever he want to do. He don't have to stand that makes him unpatriotic because he don't stand. He don't have to sit or kneel or whatever. He can do what he want to do. This is America, you know. And I just thank again the veterans who came out and showed and proved Trump, I don't even want to say President Trump, true Donald Trump wrong. I'm going to even say Donald Trump, not Donald Trump. True Donald Trump wrong for all of this, what he has done, and he's continuing to do to try to bring about division and discord in this country. All of the statistics show that racism is since his presidency have went up. You got more police killings. You got more people fighting against black people or melanated people. You got more people emboldened with their rebel flags riding around the country in my neighborhood and your neighborhood, and trying to project some false imagery that they more than what they are. But the reality of it is, beloved, and we got to say it very humbly, they don't want no smoke for real. We know that because we are people who have always took nothing and made something out of. Struggling is part of our nature. Is not second nature, it's first nature with us. So even though it might appear that all of the odds are against us, how many know we work better with the odds against us as opposed to other people? So all that old tough stuff that, this, that, and the other, and we better than y'all, and blah, 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 and, all this old fear-mongering stuff, y'all really scared because y'all the one doing all the stuff to us. So y'all got to be the cowards, not us. But if the shoe decide to turn on the other foot, y'all are one going to be in trouble, not us. Because I said again, our track record already show that you could take us and drop us off in Vietnam or Russia or anywhere else, and when the smoke clear, like y'all call us that cockroach, the black man or the black woman is still going to be standing, and we don't care how much armament you got, so on and so forth. And I just got to throw it out there. Come on, get a most high hand clap. So that fear mongering again is with you. It's not with us. We're going to continue to the best of our ability to try to respect you and honor you and be your brother. But we also want you to know that if you kick a dog around long enough, pretty soon the dog will turn. It could be Rover, your favorite dog, and you feed him. You don't got all the tetanus shots and everything else for Rover. Don't buy him the expensive dog collar and got him sleeping in the house on the dog mat or whatever. But you keep on kicking on Rover. Pretty soon, Rover, when you throw your foot out there to kick him, Rover gonna bite you on your foot. And that's the same thing with anybody who's being oppressed, who's being abused, that they had a human right to defend themselves and to stand up and say, hey, enough of this foolishness is enough. And let me say this here, and I didn't mean to get so much on this, but since we're talking about truth and reality, how many know that most of the people who profess to be Ku Klux Klan members, most of the people who profess to be skinheads, most of the people who profess to be neo-Nazi members, so on and so forth, their ancestry don't really go back nowhere but until the 1920s. Most of them came to this country in the 1920s or the early 1900s, as opposed to the African living in America. We've been here since the 1500s if you're dealing with slavery, and if you're dealing with post-slavery, they already got on record that we were here before then. If you read Ivan Van Sertima's book, They Came Before Columbus, I like quoting stats and I like quoting sources, and that's what makes me dangerous, they say, because I quote my sources. And I encourage you that if you read Ivan Van Sertima's book, They Came Before Columbus, they will tell you that the real Native Americans was black as the ace of spades. The real Native Americans, the indigenous Native American, came from El Kebalan, Africa. Dr. Ben called Africa El Kebalan. They came from El Kebalan, Africa here. How did they come here? Because we had a science and technology that was so sophisticated. We the one who built the first boats. We the one who built the first large ship and traveled all over the earth. Right. And that's why you can't go nowhere on the earth where you don't find that we have already been there. Have I got a praying temple? Come on, get a most high hand clap. So again, this is their insanity. Like they say, most people who believe in that racist mindset, so-called white people, so-called Caucasians, so-called Europeans, who buy into those misinformations is because they uninformed and they want to believe a lie. But if you go back and study the melanated people, the African living in America, the so-called black man and woman did more for this country than they can ever point the finger at of themselves. Let's take in point in the Independence War, the Revolutionary War. How many of them know that the first person to die for the independence of this country was an African, a black man named Christopher Attucks? Now you go back and pull up your own record and tell me where were you or where were your ancestors at when Christopher Attucks died in the Revolutionary War for the independence between the South and the North for this country. He was the first one to die, and he was black just like I'm black. And then the second one was a man named Peter Salem. But you go and check your ancestry, since you say you more American than me. You know, you go back and trace your roots. Your roots gonna start in Germany. Your roots gonna start in Poland. Your roots gonna start in Ireland or somewhere like that. But we have roots right here. Well, we done stood up in every Revolutionary War, every Vietnam War, every Persian Gulf War, and if a war broke out right now today, we would be on the front line fighting for this country because a lot of us love this country. But then you, in your ignorance, you come along and play this race hate game because you ain't nothing but a coward, and you want to make us appear that we are anti-American or less than American. And if you be honest and go back and and researched most of the inventions or the things that have had revolutionized the American way of life. Everything from George Washington Carver to other type of inventions that we have did, even on up to the date. The woman in the hidden colors who did the mathematical equations so that the airplane can break through the ozone area, and that she did equations so perfectly that she said what a ship was even going to land at in the water. So all of these contributions and more that we have did, and we've been your guinea pig. You shot talking about violence, talking about we violence. What is more violent than the 30s that you shot syphilis up in our ancestors and then allowed them to live all of those years without the proper medication? So some of them died in 1974 and 75 and 70. You let them live from the 1930s all the way to the 70s, talking about you doing an experiment to see how they going to handle being shot up, with these type of diseases and all of this old type of stuff, sickle cell and syphilis and all this other stuff. Then you the violent one. Your track record have shown more you being violent towards us than us being violent towards you. And I'll say it again, the only reason why you want to paint the picture and the reality of it is that something is wrong with you, not something is wrong with us. It's something that you got down on the inside of you that makes you fear us. And even though we have not did nothing, I'll say it again. Martin Luther King, a great man in our culture, he promoted passivity. Couldn't have found a man more greater, or as Malcolm said, insane than Martin Luther King. That somebody beat you down and you run through them handcuffed talking about slap me and I'll still love you. If he wasn't the second coming of Jesus, I don't know who is. Have I got a praying temple? You can't find a man more passive. In the midst of struggle, in the midst of storms, in the civil right, so-called civil right era that they called it, where people were talking, the Panthers were talking about taking armament, the Republic of New Africa was talking about bearing arms, the Nation of Islam was talking about bearing arms, different organizations was talking about bearing arms, but Martin Luther King said, no, I ain't gonna go that way. I'm gonna try a more passive approach. And as he tried that passive trope, he began to organize marches and sit-ins and so forth. But at those marches and sit-ins, none of our people violent. We was getting our heads cracked. Have I got a praying temple? We were getting dog sicked on us. Have I got a praying temple? We was getting water holes sicked on us. And the more they did all that, the more stronger Martin came out and told his followers, yo and my grandparents, to stay humble, to stay passive, to don't react with violence. Now, if that ain't the spirit of the so-called spirit of Jesus or the so-called spirit of a person who's trying to look the other way and turn the other cheek for all of the violence you inflicted on them, then I don't know what is. Come on, let's give Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement a hand clap while we're in here this morning. So we're just talking about some of the things that deal with our reality and America's reality and the world's reality. And there's so much going on now because the president of Ghana has came out and he had apologized to us Africans living in America for their role in the slave trade, and that sometimes people even taught that we never had a part in the slave trade, but you got Africans coming out and owning up into their ancestral role and part in selling us into slavery. And still, even in that, I want to tell you that you got to understand that Africans selling us into slavery, their definition of what indigent servant does not equate to what the definition of Slav coming out of Germany and slavery represent. The European word Slav and slavery does not meet up with the African word of indigent servitude, because in Africa, even though you were in indigent servitude, you still could rise up and be a governor. You still could rise up and be a mayor. You still could rise up and marry the king or the queen's son or daughter. You still could rise up and become a great leader. As opposed to us being in slavery, you was made a badge of sling. You was reduced, our ancestors, us, was reduced to the level of an animal. table. We had to eat our food out of a sloth trough with the pigs and the cows. We wore Kroger sacks. We didn't have shoes on our feet. The average expectation of one of us living wasn't even 40 years old because we would die because we worked from can't see sun up to can't see sun. Have I got a praying temple? Can't see sun down. So there were so many obstacles and variables against us to fail. But even in that, we still survived and we made it to the other side. So I'm just jumping around here, but I'm talking about some of the things, the misinformation that you see on electronic babysitter, the television, that they try to impart into the community and the world, saying this and that about us. And we have to make some of this stuff plain so that we'll know, beloved, that their reality ain't our reality. You can do like this and scratch your head and they'll jump back and say you swung at them because that's their reality. They the one living in fear, not you and I. And I'm saying that you and I, we need to not live in fear because we already know at the end of the equation, we're going to come out on top. We have always been survivalists and we always will be survivalists. So if you don't hear nothing else and if you don't learn nothing else from Bob Kirby this morning, learn that fact. But let us go on and clear up some more of this misinformation and these untruths that people are defining as being reality for themselves and us. And let me say this right here. If you're not mature enough to realize now that the healthcare industry is only about money and not about your own health, then you are really living in a fairy tale world, right? If you're blind enough to think, if you're blind enough to think that somebody who only want greed and money caught up in false prestige and money is really genuinely concerned about your health, then you're going to keep on dying. We're going to keep on dying at the rate and even an ever increasing rate because it's going to get the snowball effect. You know, the domino effect, everything fall down. But the snowball effect, when it roll down the hill, it keep get bigger and bigger if you're listening. So we're going to continue. The numbers going to go up. And then if you look at me and Queen Mother Deb was talking about, if you look at the equation, and I'm gonna say it this way, to where when they give you medicine, it's not the same way that you got it back home in Africa. In Africa, in order to be a priest or a priestess, then you had to go through certain ritualistic trainings in order to be defined as being a priest or a priestess. You had to if you had an ailment, they would call you in. And I love Sister Deb because we talked about it. And you would have to go into a tent or wherever the medicine man or woman was or this priest. And I'm going to say, unlike this Western person you calling a pastor who don't have no knowledge of healing, only tell you that they lay hands on you and that they heal you. How many know that ain't working for us? Everybody and his brother be healed by now. Pastor, I just came down here. The doctor told me I got cancer, Pastor, and I believe in you. You a man or you a woman of God, Pastor. Come on, tell Jesus to heal me. And the pastor throw the hands on them and they get to shaking and doing all that old stuff. And they, heal Jesus. You said you were healed, blah, blah, and all that. And then they go back home with the same ailment that they had. 6 months later or whatever, they died. And this the sister been in the church all her life, paid all her tithes, raised her kids right, but Jesus ain't showed her the same way with the Muslims. That Prophet Muhammad, and you ask Allah, Prophet Muhammad name, he gonna hear. So I'm just making it real. We talking about the truth now. We ain't talking about no ego, no feelings, stepping on nobody's toe, because we love you no matter where you are at in your school of thought. Let me say that. I'm a humble brother. If you want to stay in that school of thought, brother or sister, and that what works for you, that's all right. But we're talking about reality and the truth now. We've been praying to Jesus for over 500 years, and our condition ain't got no better. The police still shooting us down. We still number one in teen pregnancy. We still number one in unemployment and everything else. But every time we read that Bible, when Jesus healed somebody, it was straightway and immediately. Then why he ain't healed us yet? And the Bible says the affectionate, fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. I don't know nobody who prayed to him and worship him more than us. Then we need to ask ourselves in truthfulness, then what's wrong with this picture? Why he ain't healed us yet? And that goes for Islam as well. But I'm going to continue to paint this picture. So we going along this this road in this medicine thing, right? Yeah. To where we're taking medicine to where they got one ingredient of the real medicine that will heal that particular ailment that you and I got, but they put a small percent of it in the medicine, the pill or the liquid or the whatever it is that we take, and then as a result of that, we take that, but they already tell us on the paper they give you or on the electronic babysitter when they tell you, try this and that medicine. But if you try this and that medicine, it might cause nosebleed, internal bleeding. It might cause cancer. It might cause heart attack. Look, I ain't got nothing but a cold. I got a cold. Now you want me to take something that's going to give me all of this? And I'll tell you this, that we're dealing with reality. That something is wrong with us. Well, we continue to allow them to pass laws and make rules to pass medicine, the United States government, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, that give us drugs that promote death under us, as opposed to promote life. And if in case you didn't know, all of the real herbs, all of the real spices, all of the real barks, tree barks or whatever type of roots and barks that actually does the healing, the United States government has banned them from the United States. Now go figure that. The real bark and the herb that they know that's in Australia, that they know in Africa, that they know that was on a Native American reservation or what they call it, the plantation or reservation, whatever you want to call it, all of the real medicine that they know that will heal you and I, the United States government have worked overtime to keep them out of your and my community. Why? Because they don't want us healed for real. Because somebody who owns a company pay the lobbyists off to go to the politician and say, make sure this bill get passed where this type of herb can't come in the country. Make sure this pill get passed so that certain kind of doctors can't prescribe this type of health medicine to these people. These people have made a science off of the death of us. Let me let that sink in. These people have made a science off the making money off the death of us. They give us this bad contaminated food. They give us this bad contaminated pesticides and herbicides. They give us this bad toilet bowl cleaners and bathroom cleaners and other stuff we spraying all around our house and breathing through our car in our car that's causing us all these diseases. And by the same token, while they doing that, they setting up different type of programs so that when we do become victimized by certain ailments, then they got a way that they're gonna on the way out that we dying, that they're going to try to make as many $1 million off us as they can. Come on, get the Most High the truth. Y'all know I'm speaking the truth. They have made a science out of this thing. And we sitting around believing in untruth. Well, what's an untruth? The untruth is that we go out and say we're going to have a 1K, a 2K, or a 4K run or march against cancer. Let that sink in for a minute. We're going to have a 1K or we're going to wear a pink ribbon against cancer, or we're going to wear a yellow ribbon against diabetes. How many know a yellow ribbon ain't going to stop diabetes? How many know a yellow pink ribbon ain't going to stop cancer? The way you going to stop cancer is that you start lobbying your politicians and yourself coming out your house and you protest against them passing legislation that stop the actual herb or the healing to come in your country. The only way you're going to stop cancer, diabetes, and these other ailments is that you go and protest in front of these countries and tell them to quit making these type of chemicals, to quit doing these type of pesticides and herbicides that they put in our foods and stuff like that, because you're living in untruth. You're not dealing with reality if you think raising some money for cancer research is going to stop cancer, but that money you raising ain't addressing the real issue that's making cancer in the first. Have I got a praying temple? We want to wake some people up this morning. Again, it's not a black or white thing, but I am an African living in America who's saddled with the responsibility to bring this message on this morning. And I am bringing this message, about what is reality and what is truth. And a lot of the things that we billing as being reality is not reality. A lot of the things that we are saying is truth is not truth. And I'll say it again, something got to be wrong with you. If you think you're going to cure cancer by participating in a 7-mile walk. Well, I did my part for the Cancer Foundation. I donated $50 to the Cancer Foundation, and I went and participated in the march. But you ain't went and lobbied now, congressperson, or organized no people at that rally to go down to the Upjohn Company or the what that one, them boys, them cigarette boys, what they name, the ones who sell the cigarettes and stuff. You ain't went down there. What's their name? Philip Morris and all them people. You ain't went down one in front of down one of their buildings and said, hey, cigarette smoking is killing us. Y'all need to stop putting all them chemicals in them. You know, give us a natural cigarette. You know, don't give us a cigarette with all them byproducts and all this stuff in it and all that. If you want to cure cancer, be in front of Philip Morris in the morning. You want to stop some of these other elements that's affecting us as a nation of people. That's not white or black. All of us dying the same.
That's right.
Then go and do something for real. Don't let nobody continue to trick you into making you think that you doing something for the cause against this and that, and you ain't got damn baby rapers locked up yet, but you fighting for baby raping. You know, I'm against pedophilia, I'm against child abuse or whatever, but those who identified, and mainly the priests, you ain't in front of damn Catholic Church saying cardinal this or bishop that or whatever need to go. But you on there talking about, well, I love children. I love this and that. And I'm talking about white, black, or whatever. So we got to quit dealing with these unrealistic approaches to solve our problem, because everything should be solution-driven. Have I got a praying temple? If it's not solution-driven, then we part of the problem.
That's right.
Have I got a praying temple? And I say that very humbly. We can talk all we want out of our mouth, but until we line up in large numbers and go and shut some of these places down, and we tell the people, say, we know you work here, and we know you got to make money, but we telling you right now for the whole month, this place right here got to leave our neighborhood. It ain't going to be no making of no certain kind of chemicals in this thing today, because these chemicals killing us. In fact, the whole stuff y'all got us breathing is killing us. You know, this plant right here in our neighborhood, in our community, and we breathing this stuff, and y'all steady telling us that it don't affect us, but we know that the rate is going up. My baby born with a big old knot on her leg, and my son born with an enlarged heart or a too small heart or a brain tumor, whatever, and you steady trying to convince me that this plant ain't got nothing to do with it.
That plant got to go.
Am I making any sense, though? So that plant got to go. I mean, if we really concerned about doing what we need to do, then we got to come out in numbers and shut this stuff down that we know ain't working. And we got to tell the politicians, if you really a politician and you working for us, then help us shut this down. Because if you don't help us shut this down, then you ain't going to be the politician representing us the next term. Have I got a praying temple? We got to use the voting power that we got to benefit us. And we got to tell these politicians, we cannot stand by and continue to die slowly the way we are dying based on misinformation and false representation, that you're making your pockets wealthy, that you're making your... How many know that the average politician got free health care? The average politician, if not all of them, I'm going to go out on a limb and say all of them. Sometimes I do overquote myself. All of them politicians got free health care. You and I are struggling to get our health care met and paid. They charging us not only some not with copay, but they charging us money for the doctor visit. They charging us certain money for certain services. In fact, it's so bad now, so